In French, we have three groups of verbs. And the first group of verbs that end in ER. Second group, verbs that end in IR. And the third group, verbs that end in RE. So today, we're just going to learn how to conjugate verbs that end in RE and verbs that end in ER. To conjugate a verb that ends in RE, the first thing you have to do, you remove the ending and then you remain with the stem. And to the stem, to each pronoun, there's a specific ending that will add to the stem. So let's use an example. We have the verb attendre. Attendre. Attendre means to wait, to wait. So if you are conjugating it, the first thing you do, you remove the RE. You remain with this. This. Now this is the stem. Attends. Tu. Attends. Without the ending first, and then il. So elle. Attends. So to je, you add an S. To tu, you add S. To il stroke L, we add nothing. We use it the way it is. We add nothing. And then to nous, which is we, you're still using the stem. This was the stem. Vous attendez. Il stroke elle. And the stem. The stem. So to nous, you add ONS. To vous, you add EZ. To il stroke L, you add ENT. So nous attendons. Nous les liaisons. Attendez. Ils attendent. Elles attendent. The verbs that end in ER, the first thing you'll do, you remove the ending, and then after removing the ending, you remain with the stem. So to the stem, to each pronoun, there's a specific ending that you add to the pronoun. So to je, you add E. To tu, you add ES. To il, stroke L, you add E. To nous, you add ONS. To vous, you add EZ. And then to il, stroke L, you add ENT. So after knowing the endings that will be added to the stem, let's take a verb and conjugate. Okay, we have the verb habiter. The H is silent. All H's in French are silent. Habiter, to stay. You want to conjugate this. So you remove the ER and then you remain with this, the stem. So to je, and then habit. To tu, and then the stem habit. To il, stroke L. I didn't say it's L, but no. We are stroking L because it has the same ending. So to je, you add E. To tu, you add ES. To il, you add E. So if a vowel is followed by a H, you'll have to omit the first one. We do this because, like in French, the H's are silent. So in this case, we'll assume that there are two vowels because H's in French are silent. It's like the H is not there. It's like, you see, there are two. And if there are two vowels that follow each other, we have to omit the first one. So we'll omit the E, and then we replace with an apostrophe, and then we join them together. So it will be the J apostrophe and that. So it becomes j'habite. J'habite. I stay. So j'habite, tu habites, il habite. Nous, you add the stem, which was that. To vous, you add the stem, which was that. And then to il, stroke L, you add the stem, and then you add the endings. To nous, you add ONS. To vous, you add EZ. To il, you add ENT. So here there's a liaison, and there's a liaison. So nous habitons, vous habitez, ils habitent. We are living, you are living, they are living. So that's how you conjugate verbs that end in ER. There are special cases which the conjugation of a verb that ends in ER can be a bit different. When a C comes before the ER and when a G comes before the ER, or when a Y comes before the ER, with a specific conjugation. The conjugation will be slightly different. Let's start with the C when it comes before the ER. So you already know, to conjugate ER verbs, you first remove the ending, which is the ER, and then you remain with the stem, and then you'll be using the stem to conjugate the verbs. So let's take an example of a verb where the C comes before the ER. Example, we have avancer, avancer, which means to move forward. So the first thing you know, you'll be removing the ER, and then you remain with this. This is the stem. This is C. This is the stem. So you use the stem to conjugate. So je, and then that, tu, and then at, il, stroke elle, and then the stem. The stem. To je, you add an E. To tu, you add ES. To il, stroke L, you add an E. But you remember, two vowels cannot follow each other in French. So you have to eliminate the first one. And then you replace it with an apostrophe. And then it becomes one word. So, j'avance. J'avance, I'm moving forward. Tu avances, you're moving forward. Il avance, elle avance. To nous, avant. And then you add the ONS. To vous, you add the EZ. To il, you add the ENT. But to nous, the C changes to CD. Yeah, so whenever C comes before the ER, when you're conjugating nous, the C will have CD, only nous. The reason being, when C comes after O, A, O, R, U, it forms a K sound. But you see the verb avancer, it had an S sound. To bring back the S sound, we use the CD. So that when G comes before the ER, example in a verb we have, manger, J, J, J comes before the ER. So when conjugating, you will do what you always do, remove the ending, all that, and you add the endings. But when you reach conjugating no, you only remove the R, and then you add ONS. It becomes like something looking like that. Then A, O, or U comes after the G sound, it will make a hard G, like go, go, go. But we need J, like manger. Not, that's why this E is here. This E is there to make it a soft G sound. The rest follow the rule. You remove the ER and then you add the endings. But when you reach the no, when you're conjugating no, you'll only remove the R and we'll have this. And then to this, you add ONS in no. The remaining follow the rule. Okay? And then we have another one. When Y comes before the ER. When Y comes before the ER, the example in a verb, let's say, envoyer. Envoyer means to send, to send, to send. So in conjugating, you know, the first thing you remove is the ending. So we have this as our stem. Now, in je, tu, il, elle, and the plural of il and elle, which is il and L. The Y changes to I. So this is the root that they will use. For je, tu, il, elle, il, and L, they use this as their root because the Y changes to I. But for nous and vous, they use this. The Y does not change. So the root for nous and vous is this. This is the root for je, tu, il, and elle. So je, and then the stem, which is that, and then you add E. But two vowels are following each other, so you have to eliminate one. So you replace that with an apostrophe and join them together. Tu, and then envoie, and then you add S. Il, envoie, and then you add E. For nous and vous, the Y remained. So this is the root for nous. And then you add ONS. For vous also, the same thing. Envoie, and then EZ. So, j'envoie, tu envoies, il envoie, nous envoyons, vous envoyez. I am sending, you are sending, he is sending, we are sending, you are sending. So, the thing to remember, when a Y comes before the ER, the Y changes to I in je, tu, il, and L. The Y will change to I. But for nous and vous, the Y remains. So we had the example envoyer, envoyer. Or you can still do it the same way we conjugated the other verbs. You write envoyer and then you remove the ER and then you use this as a stem. You are still allowed to do this. The most acceptable is the other